Hello everyone, and in this series we will study some basic SQL interview questions. So the basic has to be set right before you jump into advanced SQL queries. So in coming 3 or 4 videos, we will cover the basic interview questions, which will make you very confident in facing interviews. So the series are designed like theory plus practical, more focus on practical, so that we can write queries and understand. Because interviews may you have been told to write queries, okay? So only the first question is theory here. What is SQL? Rest all the questions are practical based, and we'll be doing these questions, okay? So firstly, it is what is SQL, okay? So let's just see what is SQL, and then we'll come back to other questions. So what is SQL? Okay. So we all know that it is referred to as a structural query language, right? And so why it is used actually? So understand one thing, that why I'm calling it as structured, because it deals with relational data. That means which is stored in the form of rows and columns. As a relational database is always in a form of row and column. Okay, it follows a particular pattern. And this is used for managing and manipulating relational database. So SQLs will be useful, this language will be useful to deal with database, to communicate with databases. You need a language which is SQL. Okay, so you've got a database and now you want to communicate with this data. How would you communicate? This is having certain data. Okay, now I want to get this data, so I will retrieve this data. Suppose I want to add certain data here. Okay, so for this SQL is used. Okay, so it is a way to communicate with databases, and we perform various operations. What are the operations? Insertion, updation, deletion of records. We perform joins. So we'll be seeing all these in our coming up series, and we'll be performing joins practically. So joins, inner, left, right, full outer join. These are 4 joins that we can perform in various tables. Suppose I've got 2 tables. Now I want to join them. So this can be done within the database. Okay, I can group my data, I can filter the data so that I get only relevant columns, relevant data. I can do aggregation, min, max, count, sum, average. I can sort that data. There are various operations apart from these that we can perform to analyze and manage the relational database. Got it? So this is SQL. Now we come to the another part, that is the rest of the 6 questions. So we will create a table, we will change the table name, we will insert data in that table, we will add a new column, then we will add values in that new column, then we will truncate, delete and drop. Usually the difference between these 3 are being asked, but it's better that we can see this practically. Now, when I'm creating a table, deleting a table, dropping or adding, updating that table, that is known as DDL, data definition language, when I'm performing these basic tasks like insertion, deletion, updation, and so on. So let's see how do we do it. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm using SQL Server, which is from Microsoft. It is one of the DBMS wherein you can write the SQL queries, manage and manipulate the data. So here let us first create a table. Okay. So in interview it is asked like, can you create a table? How do you create a table? Okay. So you can always say that I work on, suppose, MySQL or SQL Server or PostgreSQL. So then you tell that query accordingly. So I'm using SQL Server. Okay. So now let us create a table. So I will write here create, and I will write table, and let's take the table as employee 2, because I've already created one table, employee. So that's why I'm taking employee 2. And now suppose in this I want to give some column names. So what I'll do is I will give the column names like employee ID, and this has to be given the data type also. So int, then I'll give employee name, okay, and let it be varchar. Varchar can accommodate more, gives more space, so that's why I'm taking varchar. And let's take salary, okay, and let this be in int. I'm not taking decimal just for simplicity. So now let's run this. I select it and press F5. And now if you want to see this table, how it looks, so let's see. Select all from employee underscore 2, as you can see here, right? So let's see. Now you can see here in the results section what we got, okay? Here, employee name and salary, but there are no values in it, okay? There are only the columns. The structure of the table is complete. Now let's insert values in this, okay? So let me insert values in table. How do I insert table values? So I'll simply write, it's very easy, insert into what? My table name, which is nothing but employee 2. And then let me give the columns, because I want to insert in these columns, right? The value should come below this. So I write here employee ID, and I have employee name, and I've also got salary, right? Yeah. So this gives you automatically that is what you want, right? So then I will write here values. Okay, so the values would be as per this order: employee ID, employee. Okay, this is not ID, this has to be corrected actually. Employee name, yeah, and then this is salary. Okay, so employee name, let's take Alice, and salary, let's take any salary for that matter. I'm just taking here any name, 3, let's take here, okay, and this is how we create a table. So this is, I've inserted this value, so let's run this. So you see here 4 rows affected. Now again, if I just copy paste and show you, this is the created table with inserted names in it, okay? All right. So now we've seen how we insert values in table. Now let us rename the table. How do we rename the table? Now, to rename a table, there are different commands, but for SQL Server, it is exe. Now this is, I'm using stored procedure here, right? So the stored procedure is rename, and the old name of my table, which is nothing but employee underscore 2, and the new name of my table, which would be like, employee new one, employee new. Okay, let's take this. So let's run this. So it gives you a warning that it could break scripts or stored procedures because I'm using this. So it doesn't matter, but it will always give you the result. So I will write here select all from, because I want to see whether the changes have been made or not. So I'll write here from employee new. So you can see that my previous table has been renamed to employee new. When I run this command, it says that it is an invalid object. Which one? Employee 2. Because it has been renamed now. It doesn't exist in the database. Right? So these things are very important because you need You need to be very careful while using all these functions, these definitions. So now we go on to another thing, which is add a new column. How do I add a new column? In this database now, I suppose in this table, I need one more column, which is department. So let's add it. Okay. How do I add? I will simply write here alter table. Okay. Alter table. What is my table? emp underscore new, right? And I will write here add department, right? And assign the varchar 50. All right. And let's run this. I am just creating one more column, and let's select this. So you can see one column has been created, but since we have not given any values, there are no values in this. That's why we got null. Okay. Now how do we add values, or you can say add values or insert values into new column? So let's do this with the help of update function. Okay, we'll use update. Update what? My new table, that is employee new. Okay, and what I'll do, I want to set department equals, right? So here I will use case when, because I want to assign different departments to different employees, not the same department. Okay, so I'll use here case when. So case, and then I'll use when on the basis of employee ID, because it is a unique or primary key here, and it will be unique. It will not be repeated. That's why I'm using it. Okay, employee ID equals 1, then assign that person HR department, and when again employee ID equals 2, then okay, let's take sales. When, so there are 4, right? So let us check this also. Employee ID equals 3. I have not given any department to the last person, and I will simply update this. 4 rows affected, and let's call this table again so that we can see what has happened. So you can see here that the last one, since we have not filled anything and not assigned any department, we get the same null value. Okay, so now because I wanted to use delete here, so I wanted to delete rows from the table. So let's use delete here. What would I do? I'll write here delete from what? From where you want to delete it? From employee new I want to delete. What do you want to delete? Now I will specify what I want to delete, where department is null. Okay, I'm using this function where department is null, delete that row. So it says 1 row affected. Again, let's just call this, run this. So see that the 4th row has been deleted. So delete only deletes a specific row based on the condition. And you have to specify, you have to be very specific about what rows you are deleting, whether it is null or whether it is having certain values which you don't want in your data. It should be used very sparingly. Okay, so truncate. Now what does truncate do? Let's use again truncate. Okay, so truncate table, which table? We have got just one table right now, which is employee new. So let's just truncate this table and see what happens. And again run this command to see. So we can see that when I run this after truncate, I see that I have no values in the rows. I have just got the column names and the structure of the table. So truncate will retain the table but will remove all the values from that table. Okay, so structure of the table remains intact with truncate, but all the values are being deleted. All right, now the last one is drop. Let's see what does drop do. So I'll write drop table. Again, we've got just one table here, so I'll just write employee new and let's run this. So it says, let's see what it says. Select all from employee new. Okay, and you see that it says invalid object name. That means this table does not no longer exist in the database. Okay, so that means the entire table is being dropped. Okay, so what does delete do? It just deletes a specific row. Truncate deletes all the rows, all the values from the table, but retains its structure with the columns only, and drop will drop the entire table. Okay, so now we are done with the basic series first, and in the next section we will understand further different queries like join and updations, grouping, and so on. Okay, till then, thank you and happy learning.